that I do not stare into the too solid darkness of my room and imagine death's hard, unseen face staring coldly back at me. Scipio said that it was perfectly natural that any child alive should be interested in death, for you couldn't have one without the other, and that back in Africa, where he came from originally, a boy such as myself who demonstrated such an interest in the afterlife would have marked himself out as a future Hungan, which is a kind of priest or witch doctor. Scipio also told me that his own grandfather, Mzizi, had been a great Hungan and knew better than anyone how to connect the world of spirits and ancestors with the living world of human beings. "All the same, young Master Edgar," said Scipio, "it seems to me that you have all of eternity to find out the answers to these questions. So, maybe it's best you don't go rushing that particular inquiry." I persisted, however, with the result that Scipio and I often talked about what might lie on the other side of death's mildewed curtain, although the poor man might easily have felt, by reason of his lowly station, that he was obliged to indulge my youthful questions and speculations upon the matter of what it was really like to be dead. Persistence paid off with the discovery that Scipio himself was in possession of Hungan's secrets and knew very well how the world of the living might become better acquainted with the world of the dead. And I must reluctantly confess that I took unfair advantage of our relationship, constantly badgering that unhappy African to give me a clearer account of exactly how such a closer acquaintance might be achieved. Finally, and with great reluctance, he told me something of what I wanted to know. "Anybody who wants to find out what it's really like to be dead," he explained, "has no choice but to go and visit the folks in the underworld. That ain't easy, and it ain't for the faint-hearted, boy. If you are going to visit the underworld, you need to find yourself a door. There ain't but one place in Richmond to find a door like that, and that's the cemetery. And don't think I'm talking about a stroll around those headstones like you are partial to. I'm talking about something much more profound, in the true Latin sense of that word. The plain fact is, Master Edgar, you need to get yourself buried alive. Just like one of those Vestal virgins from Roman times when they were accused of violating their vows of celibacy. They got sealed up in a cave with a small amount of bread and water so that the goddess Vesta might save them, supposing they were innocent, of course. Or, like St. Castulus, who was chamberlain to the Emperor Diocletian. You remember what happened to him? They buried him alive in a sandpit on the Via Labicana. I knew the story well, of course, and might have added that it wasn't just St. Castulus who had suffered the fate of a live burial. Vitalis of Milan, for example. The poet Dante refers to the practice in the Inferno. And I had read that in feudal Russia, women who had murdered their husbands were subject to a self-explanatory mode of execution known as the pit. The last known case of this punishment happening had been in 1740. So I was hardly as horrified at the idea of premature burial as perhaps Scipio had hoped I might be. "It's not just that," continued Scipio. "It's the way you are buried, too. You've got to be buried alive with the lid of the coffin facing down. Now, most folks who get themselves buried do it the other way, of course, with the coffin lid facing up, on account of that's the general direction they want their souls to travel in. But if you are going calling on the underworld, you've got to be going the other way. You've got to go in face down." "That's it?" Scipio laughed. "That's it," he says. "Listen to yourself, white boy." Scipio laughed some more. "Being buried alive, even for a short while, isn't any Sunday school picnic, boy. For one thing, you've got to last from dusk until dawn without going plumb crazy. Why, one solitary hour being buried alive would be enough to drive most folks mad, let alone one whole night." "If I am going to visit the underworld, then, strictly speaking, I can hardly be buried alive for the whole night, can I?" I said, with precocious logic. "The coffin lid has to open like a door, you said. In those circumstances, it doesn't make any sense for me to be afraid." "I do believe you're not," he said, with some admiration. "Very well, Master Edgar. You figure out a way to get yourself buried alive, and I promise I'll have a quiet word with my granddaddy to come and fetch you out of the